Well, thanks for being here, John. So I was very excited when I was told we were going to do an interview with originally with Tim Westergren, because he's one of my heroes. I really believe that Pandora hasn't just changed the way people listen to music. I think it's changed the way people think about and experience media. And we're hoping we could get him for a rain check, maybe this fall during Advertising Week at Future Media Forum or one of those events. But John graciously stepped in to fill his shoes, and it's probably a more relevant conversation given what we're discussing here at Oma Mobile today. Just for a little background, John joined Pandora in 2009 from Glam Media. He's a digital native. He was the head of advertising sales there. He was part of the exec team at News Corp that helped start Fox Interactive Media and acquired MySpace.com, IGN.com. So he's got some serious digital chops. He came over to Pandora. He's the chief revenue officer, and he's responsible for all of the company's advertising revenue, strategic sales, marketing, and ad ops, including display, mobile, and as we'll discuss, I think Steve alluded to it, you know, refrigerators too now, and other things. On his current Pandora lineup, according to your bio, are Counting Crows, Dropkick Murphys, Kanye West, U2, and Jack Johnson. I probably said Dropkick Murphys wrong because that's how clueless I am.
You nailed it.
Okay.
That was great. My musical taste is a hot mess. I'm all over the place.
Cool. Well, so, you know, I'm not a mobile wonk per se, but, you know, I've been around enough of these events and listened to Steve's brilliant, you know, curation of what's going on in this sector to understand that it is a challenge business. I mean, on the one hand, it's the most ubiquitously distributed medium ever, right? Everyone's got it in their pocket. But the revenue model is seriously challenged. And what I think one of the problems is that whenever you have a new medium created, people don't really know how to use it. They try and retrofit the old medium before it in. And we've seen a lot of false starts with people trying to do apps and visual display type advertising. It's just not working that well. People are still trying to figure out the format. But the thing that is really, really working is audio. I mean, and I think the best example of that is Pandora. I mean, basically you are now internet radio, but your killer app, I believe, is on the mobile and handheld devices. And so I just want to get a sense from you of what you've learned. Let's call it the consumer advertising genome project per se. I mean, you've been doing this for 7 years or so now. What have you learned about the way consumers experience content, particularly advertising content on mobile devices, that's unique and different from other media?
Sure. How many Pandora users do we have? Thank you very much. Let's see. I would debate you on the challenge of monetization. I think it's certainly in the early stages, but I think I would back it up in a story the lens I see where we are today is I would back us up to say 7 or 8 years ago when social media was just starting to take off. There was this massive paradigm shift overnight where all of a sudden we basically went from our email accounts to the MySpaces and Facebooks of the world. And at that point, it was overnight, it was huge, but from a brand's perspective, there was no box for social media. There was no revenue thought process or advertising thought process to think about where and how to spend. And I think that's a bit of the challenge that we're in today, right? Overnight, the mobile numbers have exploded, and it's how do brands think about allocating parts of their media spend against mobile. And I take it a step further. It's even as more a challenge if you think about it as mobility. And that's what we talk an awful lot about, right? We'll come back to audio, but mobility is you have your smartphones, you have your tablets, you have your consumer electronic devices, you have the automotive installation, and how does a brand think about that? And we spend an awful lot of time at this stage because I think we're at the bleeding edge from a scale And in an advertising perspective on monetizing those offerings, we spend a lot of time with brands really talking and evangelizing about where the future's going and how do we help them. And I think the help part is really what's critical, right? I think if you go back to social media, it was, okay, you have to start with how do we measure this, right? And I think we're doing a lot better as an industry in measuring mobility, both as it relates to your overall publishing business, as well as, ComScore really in the last 6 months started to measure mobile individually. And we're fortunate enough to benefit from that as being the largest standalone in mobile. I think I call it the plumbing, not real sexy, but the plumbing of being able to transact is now starting to move forward. We've been fairly forward recently about the relationships with MediaOcean and Strata, which are some of the largest transaction data ports in the terrestrial radio side of the world that are now coming into the digital landscape. And then I think you need research. Brands buy research, and they're not going to shift budget without having an understanding of what that means and how it drives their KPIs.
Okay, well, let's come back to the consumer experience and advertising formats in a minute, but you seem to be really focused on the research question, and it is a challenge for mobile and online in general. It seems like we're retrofitting into old media models, whether it's GRPs for video-based advertising, and recently ABC announced an initiative with Nielsen to start measuring advertising on mobile devices. What is Pandora doing to support those initiatives?
I think we've been on the forefront with both the IAB and the MMA to really start to understand how we think about it and how we create the measurement tools to be able to bring to brands and give them the credibility and understanding of how this does fit into the mix. So again, I think from every vantage point, we're trying to take a leadership role to be part of the solution.
Okay, and you also talked about infrastructure and plumbing, and it is a key aspect of what's going on now, and obviously relates to research. But one of the interesting things that's going on is the integration of, digital media transaction systems. And there's been some rumor that Pandora might launch its own ad exchange, much like Facebook and Twitter are doing. What are you doing to integrate with the buy-side platforms and programmatic trading? You're the head of a direct sales force. Do you see that as a challenge or an opportunity for you?
I think we take it from the vantage point of we're in a really unique place as part of that ecosystem where we have the good fortune of having scale. So, and then because of that, then I have a bit more of the luxury to be able to take a step back and maybe be a bit more slow to move against it. But what I think where we go with this is from an exchange and programmatic side. I really have 3 places that we have to set our sights. One is certainly what's going on in the display world. Second is with how large we are in mobile, we have a lot of options that we are exploring and thinking about. And then as we think about audio and how disruptive we can be there, that's another avenue. And I'd say it really is at this point spending an awful lot of time thinking about it, but I think we're going to really be conservative in our approach against all 3 lines of the business.
Okay. All right, try and make some news here because my job's a reporter. Can you make a commitment on an exchange model and when you might do it, and when you at least would have a decision on whether you're going to do it?
We're not going to give you much news today.
Okay.
It's just, again, we are spending an awful lot of time with it. It's exciting. I think there's a lot of really valuable opportunities for us in the future to explore. But again, I think being methodical at this point, there's no need for us to be a market mover at this point.
Right. I mean, one of the things I find fascinating about Pandora is how fungible the company's been in the business model, which is you started out as this personalized music filter, self-tagging technology, brilliant, got people hooked on consuming music that way, but you've adapted to every platform. So you are a social media platform, you are a mobile platform, and as Steve alluded, you're actually a refrigerator platform now. And I believe you even have a prototype for a washing machine. So Steve gave a compelling setup with his wife's delight about the refrigerator integration. It gives new meaning to the term snackable content, but I'm trying to understand what the real benefit is of having a music player in all of these different devices. What is it that you bring to a consumer experience by being on any, I mean, we're in the era of the Internet of Things where anything can connect to the Internet, right? So what is it that, and obviously the car is the next big playing field too. What is unique about the way consumers will experience Pandora's content and their advertising in different locations? It's actually the opposite of mobile, right? It's stationary.
I think what was really interesting about the story of the Grateful Dead station was it really reinforces who Pandora is and what our mission has been and we are laser focused on today. It's simple, easy, free, everywhere. If you take a step back, that's radio.
Right.
We've taken what has been this amazing experience with radio, personalization, localization, anywhere and everywhere, and digitized it. And we've done it through amazing focus, you know, thinking about the way the description of the Grateful Dead station, right? It was this perfectly curated station. Man, if Tim Westergren were here, he would have goosebumps because that is who we are, right? We haven't diverted. And I think that's is what is, to this point, made us as successful as we are.
But what is it about the proximity of those platforms? I mean, I'm thinking, you know, his wife's going to reach in for a Cherry Garcia ice cream, but the refrigerator is just a music player in that case. There's no real enhancement of the user experience. It's just another location for you to consume music in. One of the things I find fascinating about media is that the location that a consumer is experiencing content or advertising in can send a signal about what they're doing. How are you using that kind of data to relay new ads, better advertising experiences to the consumer? You keep calling yourself radio. One of the neat things about radio over time is it was considered a traffic driving medium, that when people were in their cars going to destinations, it was the last point you could influence a consumer. Is that?
You just nailed it. I mean, that is the game changer for all of us in this room. I mean, this is now the closest point to purchase. It's displaced radio. Right? I mean, you are walking in. I don't care if you're going to buy a car or if you're going to buy a consumer electronic device, if you're grocery shopping, this is it. This is all of our game changer. And so when we think about that, again, it's everywhere a consumer is, we want them to be able to enjoy Pandora.
So how are you leveraging the data and the user experiences associated with that when you can triangulate based on their proximity, you know where they are? If Steve's wife opens the refrigerator, do you know how many times she's consuming calories? Can you serve ads to her based on that? I mean,
we're not there yet. But I do think certainly data is a core focus of how we think about our business. And we have the, you know, when you join Pandora, you give us certain registration data. So we know name, age, sex, geography, and we know what type of music you like to listen to. And I think if you look at how we've evolved our business, we've certainly focused, to your point of data, on how valuable the local marketplace is to connect with a consumer. I think we've done a really nice job in creating contextual relevance with brands as well as the advertising user. So I think we will continue to evolve the data, but boy, we see, especially at the local level, an opportunity to really create that one-to-one connection, not only for the user, because I think first and foremost we want to make sure the user experience works, and I think if we do that well, it's driven by contextual relevance based on the data that we have on our users.
So one of the special things about Pandora is the fundamental taxonomy and the filtering of it is that it can be personalized based on your own user experience, and it creates a better experience. How are you applying that in advertising? Are you enabling people to thumb up and thumb down on the ads they see? Are you giving them the ability to have more of a personalized control and self-tagging on advertising content?
We're not there yet. A lot of brands have asked, "What do you?" All right. What station? Very nice.
Are you holding
Very nice.
a washing machine in? Okay.
I love it. Keep going. Keep going. I have to go sell another ad to pay for that, though. So now I'm out of here. Let's see. I think certainly brands have asked us about, boy, could we ever do a thumb up, thumb down around ads? I don't think we're there yet, and I'm not sure that's on the short list at this point. But again, I think just based on the amount of data we have, we provide brands the ability to get a very good understanding in a highly targeted demographic cut to be able to talk to their consumers. And again, really fortunate that we have the scale to be able to deliver that, in a very tight DMA locally, all the way to a national platform.
So you keep calling yourself radio. It's an audio medium, but you do serve visual impressions to desktops and mobile devices. You're also available on other platforms like over-the-top television devices. I think you're one of the best use cases for Roku and any out-of-the-box over-the-top device. How come you didn't position yourself against television? Why don't you go after sight and motion as well as sound?
Well, I think we do. We talk about sight, sound, and motion in the way we bring ourselves to market. So, and certainly our video platform is very compelling because, again, we serve ads at interaction. So the ability to have a captivated audience to see video is certainly part of our value proposition. But where I go is, I think you referenced, we keep talking about radio. I mean, I think the challenge that we have in the mobile space today is, especially from a brand's perspective and the creative perspective at the holding companies, is, boy, it's really, really hard to convey a message here, on a 2x2, 2x4. My kids are like, "Dad, that is like you're carrying a television." But how do you convey a message? And I think where we're really fortunate is, the audio ad is our killer ad. It's native to the experience, which I think is different than other publishers and brands. But what it allows us to do is really create a call to action and drive back to the display offering, and/or, as we heard on the previous panel, drive people back to a brand's landing page. So, again, the audio ad is really the killer ad for us. It drives every metric of success, and why we've been so successful at this point in driving mobile monetization.
Okay, so I understand why you've positioned yourselves as internet radio. You're about 7.5% of the radio marketplace, I believe now. The end of today, your company's going to announce its quarterly earnings. The analyst reports I've seen project about $123 million in revenue, of which advertising is a little over $100 million. So you're obviously getting revenue from other sources besides advertising. You said Pandora is free earlier, but isn't it also a subscription model, and how is that playing out?
God, the investor relations people are probably rolling right now that I'm even up here. Let's see. Certainly, we've always been very clear that the subscription portion of our business is something that we would we would offer and evolve. And I think, up to this point, the way we view it is it's a tool for the user. If someone just doesn't enjoy listening to ads or would like a bit more sound quality, they have an alternative, and a really good alternative. It's $36 for the year if ads just drive you crazy. And boy, I hope they don't, because obviously we've also been really clear that our business is a free ad-supported service, and I think it's reflected in the way you'd look at our media mix.
Okay. So the next big frontier is obviously the car, and I know you've already begun. You're a little different than even the satellite radio guys, because it's not simply about putting an antenna in the car. You have to have a little technology to allow them to patch into the internet. So can you explain what the plan is for the car and why it's so important for you to be in mobile cars?
Sure. Well, I think that is really some of the key to the vision and success of where Pandora is today. We looked at where the opportunity here is, and again, it is if you think about listening to music, the radio side of the world, 50% of all radio listening happens in the car. So the car is really that's what you go at. That's what makes the business. And so we've been working at this for 5 or 6 years now, working with all the manufacturers. Now we have a relationship with just about every manufacturer, and it really is what we view as the future. It's where people do their listening and where we want to be. Up till now, they're using auxiliary jacks, and I think having a more easy flow, streamlined functionality within the car is something that we've staked our growth on in the future. But as you know, as well as we are doing in the cars, and for us, it's so exciting. I mean, it feels like every third television ad is featuring Pandora as a buying feature, which is fantastic. It does take some time to create scale, based on the build cycle and the sell cycle in the automotive world. So it's certainly part of where we're going, but I think we've got an awful lot of groundwork to do before that becomes the type of opportunity that we see both on the desktop and on the smartphones.
So what form of advertising is Pandora best suited for right now? Is it brand advertising? Is it promotion or performance-based? You mentioned that you're a perfect commerce model too, because you intercept the consumer before they go to a shopping experience. Where is the predominance of brands using your platform right now?
We see it across the board. Again, if you think about what our offering opportunity is, we have this 70 million consumers who are using us. Last month, I think it was 1.3 billion hours, and the way they see an ad is through interaction, so they're an engaged audience, and we've bifurcated our business into the traditional digital business. We are deep into the radio side of the opportunity, the audio, and I think what's really exciting for us is being able to feather in local engagement. So now when I am talking to anyone from a Verizon to an automotive company, the automotive company, we can play really well in a national opportunity for brand campaign, model launch, all the way down to the tier 2 and tier 3 with the local dealers, and have measurable results to the DR side of the world, measurable results for them to understand how and who Pandora is driving into the dealer.
Well, I think we have time for some audience questions. Right here in the front row of the...
My name is Rebecca. I work for Warner Brothers, but specifically Bratz Oh, Rebecca from Warner Brothers, and I work for Flixster Rotten Tomatoes. I have been a Pandora fan since the beginning, and I've seen it evolve with subscription-based, and I listen on my phone, on my Roku, on my computer at work. But I did notice that there's a limit for free listening, and I just wanted to know your strategy behind that. You know, do you think it's going to drive away consumers because we're saying, oh, you're claiming to be free, I don't mind listening to ads, but you're still limiting me at the end of the day? So
Sure.
I'm just curious, like the balance of that.
So the question was around the limit that we place on listening on the mobile device. And what I would say is we're really clear about it. Tim sends a note to everybody. You know when you're almost at your limit. And at the end of the day, it's really a business move, right? We've been clear that we want to be and need to be profitable. And if 40 hours, if you're going to consume more than 40 hours, boy, for another $1 a month, we feel like it's a really, really good value exchange. And we've done this in the past. We did it on the desktop. And as we were better in building that monetization, we relaxed it. And I think the future for us and the hope is that, you know, the cap is a short-term focus. But I do think, you know, what we really pride ourselves on is creating a really good value exchange with the user. And I feel like, boy, $1 for the rest of the month to listen unlimited is a really good value exchange.
And one of the problems is you're not operating in a vacuum here, and you have new players like Google Play and Google Music and Spotify and others all chomping on your market turf. Are you worried?
How do you describe chomping on your market turf? I'd love to hear it.
Well, they're trying to fulfill a consumer need, and this, you know, yeah, you're a powerful brand, but it's fundamentally about
market. That's a reporter speak. But you know what I mean? Like I'm trying to understand what's the metric for chomping on a market.
There's no barrier to entry now. Pandora proved it. I mean, you've displaced conventional radio stations in a lot of cases. The technology is no longer a barrier. It's all about fulfilling the user expectation. Right. So if you put up an impediment, a paywall, are you concerned that you're going to lose share of market and it'll gain an opportunity for another player offering a pure free model?
Yeah, I think we haven't. We've done the cap, and we didn't lose share of market. We're growing. Our issues are growth and the amount of hours people are consuming. And I say that because I ask the question like that because there's certainly a lot of noise in the market. Google, Apple, Spotify. It's a darn hard business, what we've done. This thing is, 12 years old. And we've seen more carcasses in our rearview mirror because it is hard. And it's hard to build. It's hard to create the user experience that motivates people to come back. But again, we keep coming back to easy, free, everywhere. And boy, if you nail the personalization aspect to that, come and get us, because this is not for the faint of heart.
Any other questions?
I wanted to re-ask one of Joe's questions, maybe in a different way, about what sorts of ad interactions really Pandora invites, especially on mobile. I hear loads of Pandora ads on mobile, usually in situations where I'm not in a position to click on it. So, and I'm curious about what the ad buyer is expecting here, and what metric they really are getting in return. On the desktop, the click-through makes some sense, and some sort of direct conversion makes sense. On mobile, it just seems to me that most of this has to be branding. But what is the actual ad use case that you're seeing on mobile devices?
Well, again, I think the unique part about when it sounds like you're referring more to an audio ad.
Right. Yeah.
Sure. So I think the value proposition there is brands have been buying an awful lot of radio for an awful long time, and it's been very, very successful. And what's really unique about it is the targetability, right? So I know basically who you are, where you are. I can confirm you've heard it. So demo, heard it. Don't get that in the terrestrial radio offering. And to your point, certainly a brand driver, but also the ability to create that call to action, to drive you to either the display ad and or the brand's ad. So I think it's a really nice combination. It takes the best of digital and the amazing offering and very, very successful radio offerings and personalizes it.
Follow-up question here.
Could I just ask a quick question about mobile video, whether you've had any success with mobile video as branding exercise, and what are the rates that you're seeing per delivery? And do you charge it per delivery, or is it on a CPM basis?
So mobile video is very, very successful. Again, because we tee it up with its at integration, or interaction, excuse me. So, you know, the ability to serve it, to quantify it, has been a big part of our success, and we are, from a pricing perspective, we're at market or above. We're fortunate with the video product.
I think maybe last question.
Hello, I'm Lindsay from Warner Brothers as well. Have you ever considered skippable ads and charging more for them? And if so, how do you think, or if not, how do you think advertisers will respond to that? Because something like TrueView, which is a video skippable ad, we're possibly considering, but we're trying to understand, is that truly valuable to advertisers? And will they pay for it?
I mean, I think you probably, from Warner Brothers, have a better idea of will you pay for it than I do, right? I think anytime you can create a value exchange on behalf of your consumer, it's unique. And I think, you know, a lot of the challenge that yourselves and brands ask us for is how do I bring value to the consumers on behalf of Warner Brothers? So that's, I do think, you know, really interesting. And as we talked about earlier, you know, we've had a lot of brands come to us, you know, the thumb up, thumb down. One, could we sponsor that? Two, could we use that with our ads? And I think we've looked and continue to look at it, but you know, I think as I've said, boy, we're just scratching the surface. I feel like, you know, we're in second gear trying to evangelize how to interact with mobile. That feels like maybe fourth or fifth gear. It's like, let's get the foundation built first and get you comfortable with the foundation, and then we go from there.
Well, John, thanks for taking some tough questions today. And in journalist speak, that's a wrap.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, John. We are.